YTPC, Uncle Butter, UB Piper coming back at you today for a very special VR. Sean, congratulations on your anniversary, 1 year in the YTPC. You're a very influential member. I'm going to just start calling you the Deputy Mayor from here on out. But I wanted to bring you a story today about what event in history I'd like to see. And we're very lucky to live in such a history-rich area. So, as you see, I'm standing here at the annex of the Gettysburg National Cemetery. This is a piece of land that was bought by the federal government in 1967. As you know, of course, Abraham Lincoln gave his address just up the hill there, November the 19th, 1863, just 4.5 months after the battle had raged in Gettysburg. In 1993, the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, which I'm a member of, donated a monument that depicts a historical occurrence or event. There's a little bit of fuzziness as to the actual details and actually what had happened. So I would love to go back, witness this event, and know for absolutely sure what had happened. But we're going to take you on a little bit of a tour of the annex and the memorial from here on out. Alrighty folks, we're now standing in front of the Friend to Friend monument in the annex of the Gettysburg National Cemetery. This monument was erected in 1993 by the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. As I said earlier, the land for the annex was bought in 1967, but it wasn't until through some research and some funding from the Grand Lodge and many of the lodges, Masonic lodges around the country and the world, that the monument was able to be erected. And it was dedicated, and the capstone was laid on August the 21st, 1993. The reason I bring you out here is this is the representation in bronze of what I want to see in history. As you can see here, the monument depicts two men, one laid down and one kneeling at his side. The man that's laying down is Confederate General Lewis Armistead. He's just received a few wounds, and Union Captain Henry Bigham is coming to his aid. Now that might not seem like a big deal to you, but the fact is both these men were Masons. And in Masonry we're taught to, in times of crisis, give aid and relief to our fellow brethren. The story's a little larger than that though. You see, many of the Confederate generals were not always Confederate generals. Many of them were actually Union generals before 1860, before the Civil War had started. General Armistead here was in fact a very proud Virginian, and he was actually born in North Carolina. And he, through a series of, I don't know how else to say, but just shenanigans at West Point, actually had dropped out of that academy because, well, what happened is he broke a plate over future Confederate General Jubal Early's head, and they say that he wasn't doing so well in school, so he had dropped out. But his father was a very influential man, as the Armisteads had a long and storied history with the United States Army. During the Battle of 1812 at Fort McHenry, it was General Armistead's uncle who was actually in command of that post. Now, you think Fort McHenry, you should think Francis Scott Key, you should think Star Spangled Banner. This is a man, just like General Lee, who has a long history with the United States. The painful nature of the Civil War comes to full bear when you see and hear stories of these generals and their staffs having to actually switch sides and more or less defect, and in a lot of ways become traitors to the Union. So these two men are depicted here, but there's a third man that's involved in this story. The third man is the Union General Winfield Scott Hancock, a proud Pennsylvanian and also a proud Mason like these two men. So Winfield Scott Hancock was stationed in California in starting in about the early 1840s along with General Armistead. Now, General Armistead, he had some tough roads he came down. He actually had been married twice and had 3 children, 2 of which had passed away before 1860, before the Confederacy was formed. At the time of he and General Scott Hancock's meeting, he had already lost 1 wife and a daughter, Flora. And the Hancocks and the Armistead, and Mr. Armistead, General Armistead, became quick friends, and they more or less adopted him into his family. Until General Armistead and General Hancock's last days, they spoke very fondly of each other. This was a single man, General Armistead. He was a single man, and just before the Civil War, he had gone home because his homestead had burnt down, and he married a widow on his trip back in 1852, and they had a son, and both the son and the second wife had died as well. So Armistead had some hard times. Hancock was a brilliant strategist, military and otherwise. He was a proud Pennsylvania Mason, as I am, and also he was a very, very good man, and he made very quick friends with General Armistead. So as you see here depicted in this is Captain Bigham coming to the aid of General Armistead as he received some honestly not very mortal wounds at the angle, which we'll be at in a little bit. And this is the depiction of General Armistead after having given the Masonic sign of distress, and General Hancock, having been on the field less than 100 meters away, seeing his good friend being injured, sent his aide-de-camp and chief of staff over to give him aid and relief. And this is a depiction of Armistead transferring some of his personal effects directly to Captain Bigham, making him promise to apologize for General Hancock for all the wrongdoing he had done, very likely feeling very guilty for joining the Confederacy. But personal items like spurs of a Confederate general, or the sword, which was actually taken and later returned to his family in 1906, those were big prizes. So there is some discrepancy as to what actually happened, if he gave the Masonic sign of distress, if he had not, who ordered that, whatnot. I love this story, Sean, and I would just really want to know what exactly happened. So, as far as the ideals of Freemasonry, they are very high and ennobling character. And one of the things I love about the YPC is that it is I don't want to put any masculine connotation or denotation here, but it is a fraternity, and it is a unity of people of a high and ennobling character, just like General Armistead, General Hancock, and Captain Bigham here. And it's an interesting thing as the battle rages around people that they can take the time to be courteous and care for their friendships. So we're going to be going over to the angle now, which is the high point of the Confederacy. So we'll see you over there. Okay, here we are out in the portion of the battlefield called the angle. The angle was a very important part of the Battle of Gettysburg, as it was the high water mark of the Confederacy. I stand next to a monument, a very small and not very fancy monument. It's hard to read, but it said Brigadier General Lewis A. Armistead fell here July 3rd, 1863. Now, as I don't know if it's going to come off on film, but you see across the way, this is the area that's known as Longstreet's Assault, or also better known as Pickett's Charge. The Virginia Memorial that immortalizes General Lee sitting on his horse Travelers across the way, 1 mile. About 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 3rd of July, 1863, 15,000 men walked out of those woods over there, and General Lee's plan was to pierce the Union line in the center. So General Armistead, being being a corps commander of General Pickett's, being division commander of General Pickett's corps, he took basically the point of the attack. and he got all the way to the Union line, which you can see here is depicted as a low stone fence. Now, as he got over, him and his division were the only men to actually breach the wall. Now, General Armistead's here. He gets to the wall. He takes a few shots. He takes one in the arm and he takes one below the knee. General Winfield Scott Hancock, who's just himself got wounded, there was a bullet that came through the pommel of his horse, and he insisted upon staying on the battlefield until the battle was decided, the skirmish was decided for this particular area. He sees this happen. This is his dear friend, and he's just hadn't seen him since they were really stationed in California. And he reaches over and he gets his chief of staff, Bigham, says he just got Armistead, his nickname is Lothario Armistead. Low Armistead just got him. Go get him. And as he's going over, the fuzziness comes in a little bit. They don't know if he sent him over immediately or if Armistead gave the Masonic sign of distress. They're not really 100% accurate, but the legend is that he gave the Masonic sign of distress and that Captain Bigham came on his own. Popular thought now is that Armistead came across, was down. Bigham saw it, knew that he was a Mason anyway, and Hancock says, go get him and get him off the field right now. So Armistead's laying against this piece of artillery, which was placed very, very close to here, and Bigham comes over to him and he says, sir, we got to get you off the field right now. And he's like, and Armistead says, would you just please apologize to General Hancock? I'm so deeply sorry for the choices that I've made in my life. And he says, here, take my personal effects. And he had his Bible, Armistead had his Bible, his pocket watch, and some personal letters and the spurs of his boots. He conveys them to Bigham. Bigham is then gets a litter and gets him off the field to the 11th Corps Field Hospital, which is the Spangler Farm, not too far from here. 2 days later, Armistead passed away from these wounds that weren't really mortal. I think it's mostly infection. But here, in the middle of one of the worst events in American history, 2 Masonic brothers were able to see fit to act and give aid and relief. Now, Sean, I would love to see that, because I hear you talking about all the time about the brotherhood that exists between the firemen and the people in the fire service. The same exists between Masons. This is one of the most important events in American history, and as the bullets were whizzing and the artillery shells were landing, still Captain Bigham and General Hancock and General Armistead were able to show the courtesy and Masonic respect to help. These two are absolutely enemies. They're on the both sides they're on opposite sides of the battle. This is it's tough stuff, and that's why the Civil War is really in a lot of ways one of the worst things that's ever happened in American history. But at any rate, I would love to see that, and that's I would love to see the exact circumstance. I'd love to see stand like right here or right there and just watch it as it all unfolded. General Armistead had only one child of 3 survive. General Hancock had 2 children, both of which died before he and his wife. Both have living descendants as well as Captain Bigham. So there are family members that carry some of the artifacts and some of the history. So at any rate, I highly encourage any of you who have not been to visit the Gettysburg National Military Park to please do so. It is one of the most well-maintained and heavily, but at the same time heavily visited national parks in the entire system. So again, congratulations, Sean. I love you very dearly. You are as if a brother to me. And when I see you get to that wall, don't worry, Uncle Butter send his chief of staff to come get you. So, YTPC, Uncle Butter signing out.